Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Marshal, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome today all the participants of this conference, which is becoming a very important event for Georgians and not only Georgians. And I want to tell to our dear Minister that yes, Parliament is preparing for its play now, but be calm, there will be no 7-1 score on behalf of Parliament versus government. I believe the score will be 1-1, and that's how we are going to work together, Georgian government and Parliament. And I was very pleased to hear once again very comprehensive overview of the plans of the government provided by the Prime Minister. And I want to make it clear for everybody that the government of Georgia has full support from the Parliament, and we are glad to participate in this very noble work, making Georgia part of wider Europe. Yes, we are planning to ratify the document in the next week, and I will be with that. We will have everything ready for even harder work, which is required for implementation of the agreement. At the same time, the way of Georgia to Europe is much more complex than even this very important agreement. This way has started centuries ago, and I will not even attempt to remember all the people who played an important role in designing this way, in making progress on this way. But in these days, I still want to express my sympathies to the family of the ex-President Shevardnadze, who during his presidency made huge efforts in order to correct the strategy of Georgia after the turmoil of years after the independence. And despite many disagreements of his political opponents to him, including myself, we need to recognize this achievement, as well as the achievement of the so-called group of reformers led by the late Prime Minister Joania, who made those historic words about entering to Council of, becoming member of the Council of Europe. This demonstrates how important it is to keep the continuity, to work together across the political lines, across generations, and achieve the goals we have set for our nation. In this regard, when we analyze the way we covered during this 1 year after the last conference here in Batumi until today's conference, it is really remarkable. Then I remember we were talking about the upcoming Vilnius summit. Now this conference is devoted about talks about the Riga upcoming summit, which is already about implementation of the agreement, about making things done rather than making things planned. And in this regard, we have huge tasks, and I'm glad to see that this conference is trying to address all the important components of Georgian European integration. And first component, of course, is the domestic progress the country is making in implementing various reforms. And I believe we have remarkable progress in area of human rights, demonstrated by the reports of human rights experts and Council of Europe report about the state of human rights. We have held several democratic elections already, and this is becoming a trend in Georgia to have free and fair elections, which is an important contribution to the process of building of democratic institutions. We created transparent and accountable armed forces, which are so important for becoming a true member of Europe. We undertook effective anti-corruption measures, and law enforcement agencies are on that way, and I'm sure we will deal with elite corruption in this country as well, because dealing with petty corruption, which was trademark of previous government, was achievement, but we see that a lot of things were hidden from the public eyes, and we cannot tolerate that from the past, and we need to ensure that institutions are working hard in order to prevent it happening in the future. We established independent judiciary, and I'm glad to see the eyes of the people when they are looking to me with this question: how it happens that judges are making decisions which contradict to the will of the prosecutors? How it happened that judges are reversing some statements of politicians from the majority and so on. And I'm becoming more and more happy to see that, yes, it is the court system which should say final word in all these kind of cases, and the time when politicians were judges and judges were politicians is coming to end in this country. We promote free media and business, and this is a huge foundation for the democratic steps. However, the job is not completed, of course, and we need to continue building on democratic institutions, and in this regard, the assistance and help we are getting from our friends from European countries and European Union itself is hugely important. Another component is cultural and social harmonization. Because when we are talking about Georgia's way to Europe, of course we notice that this is not one-way traffic. It's not Georgia to Europe only, it's Europe to Georgia as well. And in this regard, we need to be prepared. And when we are talking about implementation of the European standards in our life, everyday life, we need to be very, very cautious and careful, not to hurt whatever we have, our culture, our traditions, our identity, the things which makes us important and interesting for Europe. Because I believe Europe is not talking about expanding its space with another 70,000 square kilometers, or its population with another 5 million citizens. It's about enriching Europe with the culture, with traditions, with climate, with everything this country can offer to Europe. At the same time, this implementation of the standards and keeping the identity is a task which we need to accomplish. And we need to learn from the countries, even as big as Poland. And we spoke with our Polish friends how they were making very, very specifically designed efforts in order to make sure that Europeization did not mean different Poland. It would mean Poland which would become better, stronger, and more prosperous. Another component, I believe, of the task we have ahead is that the role of Georgia in global stage, on the global stage, is increasing. And we have ambitions to be part of everything, not only our soldiers keeping peace or fighting together with our NATO allies or European Union missions. That's not the only contribution we are ready for, and that's not the only ambition we have when we are talking about cooperation and about integration. And I'm glad to see that even the topics of today's conference includes broader issues. It's no more focused on Georgia only. And Georgians, we are entering in discussions about regional issues, about issues what to do in Ukraine, how to make sure that this country stays independent, sovereign, and its territorial integrity is preserved. What to do in order to make it stable, that Europe has free access to energy resources of Asia, and what is the ways of contribution of Georgia in this regard. So we are entering in this global cooperation as players who can have its own contribution, and it's not only physical contribution, it's intellectual contribution as well. So there are many other tasks which we have on this way to Europe, but I believe the point where we are now and the success we have achieved, and this success came after this great help of our friends from many different countries, and I see many of them here, should be continued in the same way. And I can declare once again on behalf of the Parliament, and we are ready. We have already concluded very important cooperation agreements with the parliaments of different countries who are ready to provide necessary assistance to Georgian Parliament, to its committees, when the implementation of the association agreement is concerned. And we will continue this part, and I believe after 1 year we will come here again, we will have more to report. Thank you.